It is day 2 of the Sean Diddy Combs federal trial. Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, she is one of Combs' many accusers, testifying as a central witness.
Is she ready?
Very ready. Confident.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend.
They once called him a music mogul, a kingmaker, the ultimate success story in hip-hop. But yesterday, that carefully crafted image came crashing down. When Cassie Ventura took the stand, everything changed. In moments, Diddy's polished persona shattered. His face went pale as his ex revealed bombshell after bombshell, allegations so disturbing they left even seasoned courtroom veterans stunned. The man who once ruled the industry couldn't keep his composure. Cassie exposed everything, and we mean everything, about what allegedly happened behind closed doors.
In there, Rachel, she had on a brown dress, form-fitting, visibly pregnant, head held high, and did not make any eye contact with the defendant, with Sean Combs. He said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on, to the lighting in the room, to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with. And again, just to reiterate what is a freak-off, the freak-off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch her have sex with someone else. And she said that she did it because she was 22, 21, she was young, she didn't know any better, and that she wanted to please Sean Combs.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend. Combs has pleaded not guilty. His attorneys argue the video is evidence of jealousy, not sex trafficking. And now for the first time, jurors are hearing what Cassie has to say about that and other aspects of their 10-year relationship.
For years, Sean Diddy Combs moved through the music industry like he owned it, and in many ways he did. He built Bad Boy Records from the ground up, turned unknown artists into household names, and expanded his empire into fashion, vodka, and media. On the surface, Diddy was the blueprint for success, the mogul who proved hip-hop could generate serious business power. But that polished image of a visionary and mentor may have been hiding something much darker. If the courtroom testimony is true, then while the world applauded his red carpet appearances and magazine covers, Cassie Ventura was living a very different reality, one kept hidden behind closed doors.
What made Cassie emotional is having to describe the details of the freak-off and why she did it. When she talked about wanting to do it to please Sean Combs, that's when she broke down. Up until that point, she had just been answering the questions. She's a little soft-spoken at times, but that's when she got emotional. When she had to answer the question about if she enjoyed it, that's when she broke down, because she said, I enjoyed being with Sean Combs. And she says, I did it because it made him.
Courtroom yesterday was hit with a brutal dose of reality, and the contrast was shocking. This is a man who's always played the part of the ultimate professional. Custom suits, clean-cut styles, smooth talk in every interview. But the allegations now paint a completely different picture, one fans might not even recognize. Behind the designer fits and polished image, the version of Diddy that Cassie described stunned everyone. Court reporters watched him walk in on day 2, looking exactly like the Diddy the world knows, confident, composed, flanked by a wall of high-powered lawyers. He nodded, flashed polite smiles like it was just another boardroom deal. But this wasn't business. It was personal, and it got messy fast. That calm, boss-like energy didn't last. Witnesses said his entire demeanor shifted within 30 minutes of Cassie's testimony. Confidence faded. Cool exterior started to crack.
In addition to the physical abuse that she potentially experienced.
Yeah, she's definitely laying out someone who was young, who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment, led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs, loving him, not knowing about certain things sexually, and him sort of telling her, teaching her about that. And what you hear is someone that was young and she even said, you know, I was young, I was naive, I didn't know any better. But she's really telling the story of someone who thought she was going to be with someone in this music industry that was going to help her career, that cared about her, but quickly learned after the freak-offs that wasn't the case. And what I thought was also interesting is she said that after that first freak-off, she said she felt dirty. She didn't want to do it. And when she brought up the idea of having a conversation about the freak-offs in an email, which the jurors saw, she said she backpedaled in the email because Combs responded by saying, "I know, you don't want to do it." And she said, "Oh no, well, it's not that." But that was the beginning. That was in 2010, where she brings up in an email that she wanted to have a conversation about this. And in her words, she didn't want to do it, but she felt like she had.
She laid out specific chilling moments from their past, and Diddy's legal team kept jumping up with objection after objection, like they were desperate to stop every word from reaching the jury. Picture it. The man who built a billion-dollar empire launched the careers of A-list stars and closed deal after deal, now squirming in a courtroom, visibly shaken. Witnesses said he couldn't even sit still as Cassie spoke. Power dynamic flipped instantly. The moment she took the stand, all eyes were on Diddy, and for once, he didn't look like he was in control.
At some point in time, she actually had said that she looked forward to the freak-offs. Why did Cassie express looking forward to these said freak-offs?
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-offs? This is when Cassie got choked up, and she said, "I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs, and I really did love him."
And that is speaking to the psychological abuse.
His face went ghost white, like the life had drained out of him. He fidgeted with his tie, then his cufflinks, then just nervously rubbed his hands. Observers watched as he scribbled frantic notes and shoved them toward his lawyers, like he was scrambling to regain control. Got so tense, one of his attorneys had to raise a hand to signal him to calm down. A court reporter described it as watching someone realize, maybe for the first time, that the story was no longer theirs to tell. Another said Diddy looked physically ill as Cassie continued, laying out the past in calm, chilling detail, and as her testimony rolled on into the afternoon, the courtroom braced itself, because what came next explained exactly why Diddy was unraveling. The next claim she made shook the room. It was the kind of allegation that could send shockwaves through the entire music industry. The empire he spent decades building was suddenly at risk, and the man who always controlled the narrative was now trapped in a version he couldn't direct, edit, or spin.
Prosecutors have wasted no time getting right into the alleged abuse that Cassie Ventura says she endured for years. Ventura telling jurors, quote, "He would bash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head when I was down." She also got into the nature of those so-called freak-offs, saying that they involved hiring an escort, and they performed under the direction of Combs, saying that they happened so frequently it eventually became a job for her to set them up. Ventura said she did not feel she had much of a choice but to participate, that she feared that Combs would retaliate or potentially blackmail her if she did not. And she's had at times to take, she's taken deep breaths, pausing her testimony, Combs appearing to be listening pretty passively with his hands in his lap at the defense.
When Cassie Ventura took the stand, the courtroom fell completely silent. You could hear a pin drop. Everyone knew this moment was coming, but nothing could have prepared them for what she was about to reveal. Not even Diddy's elite legal team saw it coming like this. After years of silence, years of holding everything in, Cassie finally had the mic and she used it. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't come in angry. She started slow. And that made it land even harder. She spoke about meeting Diddy when she was just 19, a young model chasing a music career. He was already a powerhouse in the industry, backed by millions and connections in every direction. From the very beginning, the power imbalance was undeniable and massive.
I think what the defense is going to say is that this wasn't blackmail, this was not coercion, this was consensual. We know that Cassie started out with Sean Combs as an early person, with someone who is trying to get her career started, and he was going to help her. That's what the defense is going to say, that she was starting out and wanted someone to support her. They did their first record deal together. That's something I think the defense is going to focus on, and had it not been for Sean Combs, she wouldn't be where she is is right now. The prosecution obviously is saying he was in control. It may have started out as a consensual. It may have started out with her being excited about seeing him, but ultimately he took control of that relationship. He took control of her career. This is their key witness, and she's on that stand trying to explain all of the charges that the prosecution wants to hit home with that.
And according to Cassie, Diddy knew exactly how to use that power imbalance to his advantage. Her testimony unfolded like a slow-burning thriller, each detail more disturbing than the last. It started with the subtle stuff, controlling behavior that escalated over time. She described how he allegedly needed to know her whereabouts every second, how he'd show up unannounced if she was out with friends, like he was tracking her every move. Then came the career control. Cassie claimed he threatened to bury her music if she didn't follow his rules. And if she worked with artists he didn't approve of, he'd allegedly sabotage the project, all because he felt threatened even by the smallest things.
Relationship with Diddy. Some of those details we've seen in prior lawsuits, but to hear her on the stand actually giving those details, reliving those moments herself. Also, you have to remember, she's very pregnant right now. So I'm gonna be curious to see how long she makes it on the stand, how she's emotionally able to weather all of these questions. And what's gonna be interesting to watch is, you know, the defense from the very start in their opening statement said that she chose to be there. So I'm going to be curious to see how she responds to questions about, was this her choice or did she feel like she had to do all of it?
But the real shocker, according to court transcripts, came when Cassie claimed that Diddy went as far as installing tracking software on her phone. She said he'd call her within minutes of arriving somewhere because he already knew where she was. Then, she said, he started cutting people out of her life, one by one. Friends who might have helped her leave were slowly pushed away. Her world shrank, until Diddy was the only one left. He got so intense, the judge had to call for order 3 separate times. Diddy couldn't keep it together, shaking his head, whispering to his lawyers, making faces the jury couldn't ignore. Every time the judge checked him, he'd pull it together for about 5 minutes. Then it would start all over again. It was like watching a man who had always been in control suddenly realize he wasn't anymore. But then, the moment that flipped the courtroom upside down, Cassie calmly pulled out her phone and handed it to her attorney. What happened next? A game changer.
There was a moment early on when Cassie mentioned Dallas Austin, who she called a friend who's a producer. So I don't know if that's someone that we're going to hear from. We know that there were pictures shown to prospective jurors that are well-known celebrities, you know, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Lauren London. We don't know, though, how they fit yet into why they were even asked, do you know these people? Are you familiar with them?
So the prosecution is questioning Cassie right now, still questioning her.
The defense hasn't even got a chance to, I mean, that might change based on the timing, but, you know, because she's such a key witness, it's likely that she will be on that stand the rest of the day. We learned that Cassie referred to him as Pop Pop, and Sean Combs would refer to her as CC. The prosecution says, what does CC stand for? She said Cassie Combs.
Her messages and emails were projected onto a large screen for the entire courtroom to see, and Diddy's face said it all. He looked stunned, like he had no idea she still had those receipts. These were texts where he allegedly apologized for violent outbursts, and others where he supposedly threatened to crush her career if she ever spoke out. They didn't just support Cassie's story. They directly contradicted the image his PR team had spent years protecting, and those messages? They were just the warm dash-up as Cassie continued. Her testimony took an even darker turn. She began describing physical assaults that allegedly happened throughout their relationship, and the room went still. Complete silence. She recounted being slammed against walls during explosive arguments. Then came one of the most chilling claims, that Diddy once pushed her down a flight of stairs at a rental home in Miami, but the most disturbing moment came when she testified that he allegedly choked her, multiple times, until she nearly blacked out. She said he only stopped when her body went limp. You could feel the shift in the room. It wasn't just shock anymore, it was horror.
Expressions of the jurors look like.
The jurors are laser focused on what Cassie has to say. And that's to be expected, right? Because she is the person who will likely be on the stand, according to attorneys, for 2, maybe 3 days. She's the one that was in the relationship with Sean Combs for over 10 years. So she's got a lot to say, and she's just getting started.
Just how important is Cassie's testimony to the prosecution?
I think it really connects the dots, Rachel. When you look at that initial indictment and what's being alleged, she really is the person that has probably the most information about this idea that the prosecution says, which is creating a criminal enterprise for Sean Combs' sexual desires. Something else that the jurors saw today that sort of connects it back to this alleged criminal enterprise are 7 photos of people that were very close to Sean Combs, one even his former chief of staff. And these were all people that Cassie Ventura was able to name and explain the functions in terms of what they did: security, driver, chief of staff, someone that handled financials. So it's showing that she knew some of these people, again, because she was with him, around him for so long.